Back in 2017, we put out a video showing some editing techniques in Lightroom, and to top things off, we gave away a free preset. Now, over 3 years later, we thought it was due time to give you even more editing tips and techniques and give away another free preset.
You can feel free to make any adjustments that you want, since most editing is based on personal preference anyway. With the preset we're making today, we're gonna avoid anything too stylized or trendy. Rather, we're gonna focus on just making something that'll stand the test of time.
Let's just dive on in.
And thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video.
I like your new shirt.
I bet you do. Low-key, Daniel and I are having a race to see who can hit 1,000 subscribers first.
The loser has to
get a Larry Bird tattoo.
When starting out, our goal is generally to create a preset that will work well across all sorts of different subject matter, lighting, locations, etc. As a result, we often spend hours upon hours testing and tweaking presets to find the perfect balance. When you find a photo you want to edit, the first thing you should do is make any necessary adjustments to the exposure and white balance of the photo. Our rule of thumb for most portrait situations is to ensure the skin tones are on point, and a lot of the time, small adjustments to white balance will do the trick. When creating a new preset, the next adjustments we make are usually the highlights and shadows. Bringing down the highlights brings detail back into the brighter parts of our image. We usually pull them back to like the -80 range, and if we're ever editing a photo without a lot of highlights to retain, we can always just turn that slider back up. Lifting the shadows brings detail into the darker areas of your image. If you lift things too much, the image will lack contrast. Let's try 60. Then we'll pull the whites back. -55 looks good. We'll lift the blacks a little too. Around 25 should be good. When it comes to the texture and clarity sliders, we usually do those on a case-by-case basis, and we usually just use it with a graduated filter or an adjustment brush, so we're just gonna skip that section for now. So right now, things are looking a little washed out. I think adding a little bit of dehaze to punch things up a bit should work well. Somewhere in the 20 range should be fine. And then we'll go and lower vibrance to -10, and then bump saturation just a little.
Okay, before we begin, make sure you're in point curve mode. Now let's add some points. We want to add contrast utilizing an S-curve. We'll start by lifting the black point just the slightest amount. Then we'll add some points to create a dip, and this will create more contrast in our image. And then we'll finish out the S-curve like so. Also, if you find tone curve confusing, we've made a whole video on it, so you can click that and check it out. Let's put it above us.
A card?
Yeah, let's do a little card right
I don't like
here.
that because then they click off the video.
Well, don't click off the video right now, but come back and visit, and I think you should put all of that in there. Okay, we're gonna head into the red channel and add a little dip in the shadows. And then one in the middle to bring the curve back up. All right, and then we're gonna copy the channel settings and paste them over to the green and blue channels. If you're using an older version of Lightroom where you don't have the option to copy and paste channel settings, you'll have to draw the curves manually, or just skip down to the description and download that free preset. Next, we'll jump into parametric mode on our tone curve. Okay, here's where we can make more adjustments to our tone curve without affecting the curves we already drew. Okay, let's lift the highlights to like 40, the darks to 30, and then the shadows to 10. And then we're actually gonna head back up to the basic panel and lower the overall contrast to -25. If you wanted things a little darker and moodier, you could also slide the midpoint to the left, but we'll just leave it at the center for now. That was a lot of work to basically just get a refined contrast exactly how we like it, but that can really help set apart your edits.
Okay, so now we're just gonna skip down to calibration. We've explained it in many other Lightroom videos, but this will make adjustments to the look of every single pixel in our image. I always like cranking the sliders to the extreme in both directions to see what exactly it's doing, and then I dial it back to my liking. For the tint, a small adjustment to the greens looks good. For the rest of the hues, we'll just go down and drop the saturation some in each, but feel free to take your time in this panel playing around with the different levels of hue and saturation.
All right, let's pop into the HSL panel. If you make too many drastic adjustments in this panel, you'll likely run into issues when editing photos that are completely different. So we recommend making like as minor of adjustments as you can as possible. Okay, for hues, let's pull the orange back to like around -6. and the grains up to 9. Okay, in the saturation section, we'll add some into the oranges. Drop the yellows, and the greens will bring down the most. In luminance, a little bump to the oranges can help keep the skin tone looking good. And then we'll pull back the yellows and the greens.
Okay, lastly, let's check out split toning. Here we can add hues to both our highlights and shadows. And if you hold Option or Alt on your keyboard while dragging the hue slider, it'll help you find the exact hue you want by temporarily increasing the saturation to 100. Now once again, we can crank the saturation slider up and then pull it back to find exactly where we want it. I like to keep split toning pretty minimal, so just a 1 for saturation is all we need for highlights. I'm going to pick a cool hue for the shadows as well, even though most commonly the highlights would be a different hue altogether than our shadows. A saturation level of 8 looks good to me. Let's move on.
Okay, time for my favorite part, grain. And the effects panel is where we add grain. It's definitely a personal preference, so feel free to skip this if it's not your thing. But we're gonna do it because I love grain. I'm happy with how this is looking. Are you okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's save it as a preset. So to save it, click the plus sign and then check all. Okay, now let's go through and deselect photo-specific adjustments like exposure, white balance, and transform. Okay, and now we can title it and click create.
In case you haven't heard, Skillshare is an online learning community for creative and curious people with thousands of classes covering everything from photography, video, freelancing, design, and a bunch of other cool stuff.
In the past, we've learned how to make props for our shoots, how to make the perfect grilled cheese, and old Daniel over here has even taken some classes on music production.
There's all kinds of photography and filmmaking classes on Skillshare from people that you know and love. In fact, we actually created our own class exclusively for Skillshare.
Ever heard of us?
It'll be released in the near future, so now is the perfect time to get on in there. Nice. Most classes are under 60 minutes with shorter lessons to fit just about any schedule.
That's good because my schedule's been loaded lately.
In fact, the first 1,000 of our subscribers who click our link and sign up will get a 2-month free trial membership.
So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to get started.
It's important to test your preset across a wide variety of photos. If you notice something is off after applying the preset with a specific photo, you can go in and flip the switch on the left of each panel to bypass it until you find the panel that's really throwing something off. Then see if you can make adjustments to fix the issue. Let's try this on a handful of different photos from all over.
Fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. Dang.
Looking good. Okay, so if you want to get your pause on this preset, it is absolutely free. Just click the link in the description. If anything we covered in this video has you confused, just search our channel for Lightroom, and there's tons of Lightroom videos that we've done, including a 29-minute Lightroom masterclass covering all the ins and outs that you need to know to edit photos in Lightroom.
If you like the way we edit photos, we have 3 preset collections available at mangostreetpresets.com, and you're gonna love the material.
You're gonna love the material.
Those are the presets that we use on a daily basis.
Yeah, we don't just make them and then never use them. Hit that thumbs up button if you like free stuff.
Subscribe if you haven't already.
And turn on our notification bell.
See you in the next one.
And that comment something nice.
Bye. And cut.